The regular meeting of the Mishawaka Common Council for Monday, August 2nd, 2021 will please come to order. For those of you in attendance, Lieutenant Williams, please check your cell phone to make sure that it is on vibrate or silenced. For those of you who are participating remotely, once again, we are providing a live stream of tonight's meeting. And to that end, we would ask that members of the public who are participating remotely place their microphone on mute during the meeting with the exception of any public hearing. At the appropriate point in the public hearing, I will invite the public to unmute their microphone for purposes of submitting such comments as they wish to make, one person at a time. All persons wishing to make public comments will be asked to first state their name and address for the record. And after completing the comment, members of the public will once again be asked to place their microphone on mute. We thank everyone for their cooperation. And with that, please join us in rising for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. DeMade?
Here.
Mr. Benicki?
Here.
Mr. Hazen?
Here.
Mr. Mamalenti?
Here.
Mr. Emmons?
Here.
Mr. Belovich?
Here.
Mr. Compton?
Here.
Mrs. Volker?
Here.
Mr. Hixenbaugh?
Here. Approval of the minutes of our regular meeting of July 26, 2021. Are there any additions or corrections? Then hearing none, the minutes will stand approved as received from the clerk's office. Petitions, communications, remonstrance, and memorial.
Yes, Mr. President, we have appeal number 2021-24 to the Board of Zoning Appeals and the Common Council. This is a use variance to allow microblading and permanent makeup at 218 West Cleveland Road. And this appeal is signed by the petitioner. We also have petition number 2021-11 to the honorable members of the Common Council, City of Mishawaka, Indiana. This is to rezone rear portion of property from C1 General Commercial to R1 Single Family Residential at 115 Klein Street. This petition is signed by John and Kelly Connon. Petition number 2021-12 to the honorable members of the Common Council, City of Mishawaka, Indiana. This is annexation and rezoning to I-1 Light Industrial District for a future expansion of adjacent manufacturing business, vacant land 58200 block of Burkett Road, west of 1405 and 1505 Burkett. This petition is signed by the petitioner.
Thank you. We have no report of any special committee, so we'll move into ordinances on first reading.
Proposed ordinance number 2021-25, an ordinance transferring funds from the Motor Vehicle Highway Restricted Fund of the City of Mishawaka to the Local Road and Bridge Matching Grant Fund of the City of Mishawaka for the calendar year ending December 31st, 2021, and an ordinance appropriating additional funds for the year ending December 31st, 2021. This is transfer of funds and additional appropriation of Motor Vehicle Highway Restricted Fund in the amount of $386,620 to the Local Road and Matching Grant Fund and additional appropriation of funds to the Local Bridge and Road Matching Grant Fund in the amount of $765,240.
Proposed ordinance number 2021-25 will be assigned to the Budget and Finance Committee.
Proposed ordinance number 2021-26, an ordinance declaring an emergency and determining the expenditure of additional funds for the year ending December 31st, 2021. This is a CARES Provider Relief Fund in capital outlays medical equipment in the amount of $44,576.
Proposed ordinance number 2021-26 will be assigned to the Budget and Finance Committee.
Proposed ordinance number 2021-27, an ordinance declaring an emergency and determining the expenditure of additional funds for the year ending December 31st, 2021. This is additional funds in the CUME Cap Development Fund for service contracts and software maintenance in the amount of $75,000.
Proposed ordinance number 2021-27 will be assigned to the Budget and Finance Committee. This evening, we have no resolutions, so we'll move into ordinances on second reading.
Proposed ordinance number 2021-24, An ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Mishawaka authorizing the investment of public funds pursuant to Indiana Code 5-13-9-5.
Thank you. May we have the committee report, please?
Oh, I'm sorry, you guys. I was busy reading. To the members of the Common Council of the City of Mishawaka, your Committee on Budget and Finance, to whom was referred the matter of proposed ordinance number 2021-24, report that they have examined said matter and that in their opinion, it should be adopted. This is signed by the entire committee, and I move for its acceptance.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded to approve the committee report. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, then all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. This is the second reading and public hearing on proposed ordinance number 2021-24. Anyone wishing to speak in favor, please come forward. Good evening, Mrs. McGuire.
Good evening. Mr. President, members of the council, Becky McGuire, Controller. I have to get used to saying that myself. For your approval this evening, I'm requesting approval of this annual ordinance that allows me to invest in certificates of deposit outside of the city limits of Mishawaka, but within the state of Indiana.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Madam Controller? Mr. Compton?
Mrs. McGuire, congratulations.
Thank you.
Is there a reason we have to stay within the state? Is that state?
State
Law.
statute, yes, it is.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? Thank you, Mrs.
you.
McGuire. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in favor of the proposed ordinance who is physically present? If so, please come forward to the podium. Seeing no one, is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in favor of the proposed ordinance? Then is there anyone physically present who wishes to speak in opposition to the proposed ordinance? And is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in opposition to the proposed ordinance? Are there any council members who wish to speak? If not, then I call for the question. Madam Clerk, would you please poll the council?
Mrs. DeMade?
Yes.
Mr. Benecke?
Yes?
Mr. Hazen?
Yes.
Mr. Mamalenti?
Yes.
Mr. Emmons?
Yes.
Mr. Belovich?
Yes.
Mr. Compton?
Yes.
Mrs. Volker?
Yes.
Mr. Hicksonbaugh?
Yes.
Proposed ordinance passes 9-0.
Thank you. At this time, we'll move into privilege of the floor, and this is an opportunity for members of the public to speak with respect to non-agenda items only under privilege of the floor.
Mr. President, Dave Wood, Mayor, here to remind our council and the public that it's the time of the year for National Night Out in Mishawaka. We celebrate that, love that event each and every year. This year's will follow the tradition of taking it straight into the neighborhood. We will have two park events, one at Merrifield Park from 5 until 8 o'clock. That will be with the Mishawaka Police Department. We will have some refreshments for the event, and we will also have our several departments there represented as we invite the public to come from 5 to 8 over at Merrifield Park. There will also be one at the newly renovated Twin Branch Park, and that one is from 5:45 until 8 o'clock. And so there again, we will go to the public, so traveling road show with department managers and with the police department, but we will make both events. And so always a great time, and highly encourage our public to attend.
What was the date?
Any questions?
I'm sorry.
The 3rd, tomorrow, August 3rd, Tuesday.
Wednesday, August 3rd, correct?
Yep,
Excellent. Mr. Owens?
I was going to ask the same thing. Question.
All right.
tomorrow.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak under privilege of the floor? Thank you. This evening, I'm aware of no unfinished business, so we'll move into new business. Is there any new business to come before the council? Mrs. DeMay?
To piggyback on the mayor's mention of National Night Out, I emailed with Chief Woodward, and there are going to be fire trucks there. So all the little kids who love fire trucks, there's going to be at least truck number one, is that truck number one at Mishawaka, and engine 4 will be at Twin Branch. So.
Thank you for sharing that. Mr. Compton?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Last week, we had someone here that was concerned about a neighbor's house and, a house in the neighborhood that was a problem. And a few years ago, we had one in my district, similar problem. And in both cases, and I'm glad things were resolved, they were resolved through, different avenues. What I'd like to do, and I ask that Mr. Mamalente think about this, he's the chairman of this committee, the Substandard Housing Committee, is that in this case, in housing, that we, as a council, better understand the process. So we know, how it goes through the process. What are the steps that are taken? And then is there something that the council can do to, then we can evaluate that. And then is there something the council can do to better improve that process, make it more efficient? We've also seen something similar in a business that we've been working with. And, in most cases, we rely on the citizen or the business owner to do what they should do. And in most cases, they do. Most people have the responsibility of their home or their business and run it, in a good manner. But when they don't, and when they refuse, it's frustrating to see it drag on over time. And I know that, again, there's process and there's law. We're limited, state law or whatever, that we're limited to do. But again, I'd like to, and I'm not sure where to start that, so we could talk more about that. Understand that process. And, it might involve more than one department with code enforcement or legal or possibly even police. But I think it's something that the council doesn't have to, it's not normally what we do. It's not our job. I understand that. And I'm not saying it should be, but understanding the process. So when someone comes here or we're talking to a neighbor, that we understand it. Now we can call and we know who to call, but for me, just understanding the steps of what happens and how it comes about and what can be done. And then again, is there anything we can do to make the process more efficient?
I agree, and I'll get to you in a minute, Mrs. Volker, but great minds think alike, and actually, you may not have a chance to look at it, but I circulated an email today to amongst the council and some others that made a similar suggestion. I do agree that the starting point, and I think Mr. Triple would be happy to help with this. Perhaps we could prevail upon Mr. Hinkle and the legal staff as well, but it would be good information for us to have as a council with regard to what are the legal authorities that municipal government has, the legal authority that we have to address these type of issues. I think then to learn more about what our specific process is, not that we don't know about it, not that we're not actively involved in it, but it's always good to have that dialogue. And then what, if any, ordinance changes should we consider as a group? The one point where I will respectfully disagree with you, I think this is absolutely the role that we should play as the legislative body, to work in partnership with the administration to try to address what we're doing and what we can do better. I think that we're always, as a community, very proud of what we do, but I think that we ought to be on a constant improvement cycle where we look at what we do and see if there are some improvements, perhaps learn from the experience in other communities, and try to get better at what we do. But you're also correct, Mr. Compton. Great thanks go out to the city departments who addressed the specific situation that was brought to our attention at the last council meeting. It's not totally remediated, but significant improvement has been made, and that's to the credit of our various departments, including the police department, who took a very active role in trying to address the concern that we heard about at our last meeting. So I agree with you, and I can also share that, shortly before the meeting, and I'm not going to give him a chance to back out, Mr. Mamalenti graciously agreed to take on a leadership role on behalf of the Substandard Housing Committee. Madam Clerk and I were joking, I don't know that the Substandard Housing Committee has ever met in the history of the Mishawaka Common Council. This may be the first time, but that committee is comprised of Mr. Mamaleni, you, Mr. Compton, and then Mrs. DeMade. And certainly this would be the type of issue where I would see all of us wanting to play some role or at least be in tune with what happens. But I think in working with partnership with the administration, it'll be educational for us, if nothing else, and perhaps educational for the community as well as to where we're at and what are our options. So with that, Mrs. Volker?
Thank you. I just wanted to follow up on, I have had over the, number of years, different things like this that have happened, and have worked with code enforcement and worked with the police department, and they're wonderful and they work hard and they've resolved it. But one of the things that I've thought about is, at what point is a council member made aware when there have been 20 calls to a home in a council person's district? At what point would that trigger communication to the council representatives so that they're aware and can be proactive, not necessarily interfering with what the city's doing, but certainly being aware, for the neighbors and reaching out to the neighbors to let them know. I don't follow the, police calls, so I don't know when that kind of thing happens. So I'm just curious about, is there a trigger? Is there a threshold? Or is there a length of time? I have something that's been going on for a long time that code is working on, and it just, it doesn't resolve. So, how do you get it resolved? Because the neighbors are so frustrated with it, and we're so hogtied. Or it appears by law that we're hogtied. So I'm really interested in learning more about it and understanding it, and I want to be a good resource for the people in my district. And knowledgeable about what's going on.
I agree. Points well taken. Mr. Mamalenti?
Thank you, Mr. Hicksaball. I guess officially I would say that I'd be more than willing to accept your invitation to host the historical first meeting of that committee. So I will graciously accept that invitation. But I did want to kind of echo your comments as well. For some of us, last week we were brought to the attention of the housing issue that Mr. Hicksaball and Mr. Compton had mentioned. And I just want to applaud the administration, code enforcement, the Mishawaka Police Department, fellow council members that all worked together and tried to remedy this situation the best that we can. As Mr. Hicksaball had mentioned, that there's still some work to be done, but I think I'm pretty pleased with all the efforts from the city officials, along with the council members as well, to help speed this process up. So thanks to all.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you. First of all, a couple of things. This address has been on our radar for a very long time, and we have, as an administration who's responsible to do all we can to address the concerns that arise and make sure that we move ahead with compliance, and enforcing compliance with sometimes households that aren't necessarily cooperative. This has been on our radar. The substandard, I served on the Mishawaka City Council a long time ago, in which case we activated the Substandard Housing Committee and came up with some pretty good thoughts and ideas that last to this day. So one of the things that came out of that was the Neighborhood Improvement Team. This group is department managers from around the city. All of our departments that are relevant come together every month to discuss individual, say, address problems or bigger, large-scale neighborhood problems. Properties come onto that agenda and they don't leave until they are resolved. It has the full attention of all of the departments there at this meeting, and we address things. This problem was unique. Every problem is unique. And so there is not one cookie cutter set of laws that we can go to. We are very creative about what we, response we bring to bear. And in this case, what made this happen, maybe it was pressure from neighbors, but it was a very cooperative landowner this week who became very cooperative. So through her help, we have two options available. That's only because she signed an affidavit to make that happen. We could not have done that on our own. So a cooperative landowner, it's not a landlord situation, this is a homeowner occupied situation. First of all, had to get out of a land contract situation, then agreed to have the home boarded up and to allow that nobody can trespass on that property. She did that on her own. With our help, now we can enforce where we could not before. And I get the frustration of this. It takes patience and persistence, and that's why we were looking at it 20 years ago, because the issues we have now are similar to the issues we had 20 years ago. And we were frustrated then, as you are now. And so I can tell you that these things, while they cause frustrations for the council, they certainly cause frustrations for us, because we're responding to these situations, sometimes multiple times daily. And so to pull back and report to council members, sometimes that can be, just an extra step that, certainly council members would tend to hear about them, and we're certainly open to communicating what we can communicate. And so the other part of it is that we're here forever, and we will not give up. And so we will be successful in the end, as we are on every property that I can imagine that has come before the neighborhood improvement team. It just, again, it's patience and persistence, and that we have, and that we will not lose. And we will, it is a priority, these, bringing these to resolution. And we found that the best vehicle for that is the neighborhood improvement team, and that is something that came from the council, and we are absolutely eager to continue that, and it is a priority to do so.
Thank you for those comments, Mr. Mayor, and I was being somewhat facetious when I said the committee hasn't met forever. I do. When you and I were much younger men, I remember that time 20 years ago when we worked on those issues and that we interacted with the administration to put together that multidisciplinary group, if you will. So I agree that that was a valuable step. What is different from my recollection of when we first put that together is that at the time, and then subsequently, there was a council representative that when we appointed our committees who would be part of the neighborhood improvement team and attend the meetings, and I remember subbing for people who, from time to time, so we all had a chance to participate. And somewhere from that time when you and I were much younger men to today, and the last couple of years when we've appointed, we haven't had a formal representative to be part of it. That may not be the total solution to the points that Mrs. Volker raises with regard to communication, but it's amongst the things that I think we ought to work with you and your department heads to discuss and consider. Again, we don't have to get into the details of what we're going to do.
I'd be happy to give you that history, too.
I suspected that there was some history. I bring it up only as a point. It'd be a valuable dialogue for us to have, administration and council, with regard to what I believe to be our shared interests in trying to address these concerns in the community. So I'm very confident in saying that neither I nor anybody else who sits up there views this as being any type of adversarial process. I think overwhelmingly so, as a legislative body and an administration, we speak with one voice with regard to these issues and have the same expectations with regard to what standards are in place in our community. So we really want to partner with you on this. Number one, we want to learn things such as the history that you referenced. What are the things that all of us, myself included, don't know that we should know? I think that a little bit of Indiana Law 101 from our council attorney and whomever wants to, it would be valuable to us. And then just that dialogue. What can we do? Can we do to assist you in those daily battles that you're fighting so that we can exercise every bit of pressure that we can on those problem situations so that they're remediated in the best interest of the community. So again, I think we're on the same page. It's just a question of where we go from here. So if you're open to it, I think that we're willing to work with you and have you help us understand better what we don't know, and then work together with you to try to identify any other solutions that might make sense. Okay? Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is there any other new business to come before the council? I wasn't leaving, I was just asking the people down here. So, Mr. Emmons.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is address Kate Boca. When I turn in a problem in my district, and that, they keep me informed, but they don't inform me of a problem unless I have initiated it.
Right.
And that, and so
Well, me
they are
too.
good at keeping me advised of once I've identified a problem in my area and that, because I have 2 code enforcement officers in my area, and that, and so whether it's Vic doing on his or Mr. Redmond on his, and that, but both of them will keep me advised if I advise them of a problem. They will keep me advised that when it's taken care of or if there's a delay.
Yeah, and I have this similar experiences. What
Yeah.
I'm referring to is the ones that I don't know about.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, for them to call and tell me, hey, I got a problem in your area, unless it's very, very dangerous or something like that, no.
Well, these are things we'll have to, we'll work through.
Yeah, and like I say, I don't know what their protocol is, if that's normal or what, but, so.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for that clarification, Mr. Emmons. Any other new business to come before the council? Mr. Emmons, anything else?
No.
Hearing none, then a motion to adjourn would be in order.
So moved.
We are adjourned. Thank you, folks.